All right, so I want to try something different. Uh, moving forward at least, and we're gonna do a different way of recapping each game and doing power rankings of each team and talking about the season. So on some Mondays after the Sunday and Thursday games, I'm gonna do a good and bad from the week along with the player of the week. Change up that segment that I didn't really like you know the good, trash, whatever it was. So we're going to do that. And then for the recap, we're going to recap games, but also do a tier list as we do it. So that way, it's, a power ranking. We could talk about all 32 teams, where I would put them. I think that would be a more fun, more of an interesting way to recap the games. And then we could talk about, in these type of videos, the good, bad player of the week, we can talk more about individual things from the week that we liked, give due diligence to the things that deserve more attention. So yeah, we're gonna start off with the bad from NFL Week 5, and the bad is all the one of the bads is all the injuries, man. The Giants went through injuries. I think the Steelers have some injuries. There was a Cardinal player really injured. The injuries were bad. Saquon can't catch a break. Kenny Golladay got hurt. Daniel Jones got concussed, and there was a lot of injuries. And then the Chiefs game, Clyde got hurt. There's one more that I'm missing. Like, there was just a lot of injuries at this week, and I don't wish injuries upon anybody, and it really sucked to see those. Especially with people that we really like, people that are showing potential to be very good. Daniel Jones, and even if they weren't playing very well, you don't want injuries for anybody. So that injuries really suck. And then on lesser things that aren't so heavy, the kickers were so funny this week. There was so many missed kicks. You had the Packers Bengals game, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. We had missed kicks out the what. It was funny just seeing kickers. I think there was a stat up to now there was 21 missed kicks. So that was a really funny stat to look at. So kickers did not have a good week in Week 5. Another thing, let's talk about referees and that terrible PI call that should have been on the Chargers and not the Browns. That was awful. I don't know what the referees were thinking in that play. Literally, I think it was Mike Williams literally pulled the defender to the ground, and then they called it on the defender, which doesn't make any sense. Like, that rule. Even other rules like roughing the passer, like Matt Ryan, there was a one on him, one on Mahomes. I think there was one on Josh Allen. Like, these referees, yeah, I'm biased, and that one on Mahomes really irritated me. But come on, that roughing the passer is so inconsistent. How do you expect a guy to let up whenever a guy is literally falling? Like, you're going for a tackle, you're gonna fall on somebody. I understand protecting the quarterback in some sense, but it's football. It's like, so we can only play flag football with quarterbacks? I don't think that's fair. So those rules, the pass interference rule, it rears its ugly head again, and then roughing the passer has always been a really terrible rule that everybody's hated. And so I'm not a fan of the referees this week, especially when it came to their, roughing the passer, pass interference BS that they love to do. It's never fun to see referees. And then that Chiefs Sunday night game, the refs were just throwing flag after flag after flag. It's just like, referees are not important. Leave us alone. Let us enjoy the game. If there's an egregious thing where you need to call a penalty, do it. But it's getting really irritating seeing these refs think they're really important to a game when I don't think they're important at all. They're there to officiate the game for outrageous things. Like, if a guy's getting choked, on a holding call, fine, call that. Or if a pass interference is obvious, push a guy down, but if you're going to do that, call it right. Roughing the passer, I think, fine, protect the head and neck area. I think that should be of all players. This going low thing honestly doesn't make any sense because you don't want them landing on the player. So their instinct is to go low so they don't hit him hard. And then they still end up hitting him, getting roughing the passer for going too low. So the rule is really inconsistent. It makes it really hard on defenders to do anything. So I think that rule needs a lot of work. And then another bad thing from the week was that Chiefs weather delay. Now, with me being in college, that really helped me out. But God, that weather delay that really sucked. I feel like it ruined the flow of the game. It took everybody out of it. It felt like for a little bit. And, props to the fans. Like, the fans came back in droves. Like, they didn't leave. Like, on the broadcast, they said people were leaving. And I'm like, I couldn't tell from watching it that people had left. But yeah, just a really long rain delay kind of sucked. But I mean, again, college student, it helped me get ahead on homework, so can't complain there too much. And then the last thing from the Chiefs game was just their defense and their turnovers, man. I will continue to say it. The Chiefs are not, the other teams are not beating them. The Chiefs are beating themselves. Just turnover after turnover after turnover. Just bad mistake after bad mistake. And then the defense playing like the defense in the second half stepped up and played, solid. Finally sending blitzes, which they should have been doing the entire game. I don't know why they weren't. They took way too long to do it. But even after that, their offense, turnovers, dumb mistakes, costly. Just Chiefs did not play a good game, there against the Bills. Turnovers have been a thing that the Chiefs have never struggled with, but it's been the entire offense that feels like this year. I mean, even last week against the Eagles, they still managed to turn the ball over in a nearly perfect game. I mean, their defense, finally, like I said, they get stops. The offense is what's bad. When the offense is good, the defense is bad. So there's no consistency on this team. The team is not good. They're not a contender in the AFC right now. I mean, they're maybe a wild card team, 7 seed at best right now. All right, now let's talk about some good for the week and get off this negative crap. Let's first talk about Red Zone. Like, this is the first season that I've watched Red Zone. I didn't really know about it until this year, I'll be honest. I was a fan of football for so long. I've never heard of it. And I know that's shocking to say, but that craziness of the Red Zone, like, you had it was like the end of the fourth quarter, of the first slate of games. You had the Bengals Packers game, Patriots Texans, and then the Lions Vikings game. All of those coming down to the very end. That was a lot of fun. Just the craziness. Red Zone is crazy when things are, clicking for just at the end of the late slate. That was a lot of fun, and it's just so cool to see and watch football that way. Like when I love the standalone games. Like as much as I didn't really like waking up really early to watch the London game. I mean, it's football. We're fans of it. We're going to wake up and watch it. But the standalone games, obviously, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, we can, deal with commercials because it's like, oh, it's a prime time. It's, they try to make a big game feel out of it. But when you have 9 games going on at one time, 8 games, and then another 4, you don't want to just sit there and watch all those. You want to, especially with commercials and there's other games going on. You get to watch everything that happens, and just the way they present Red Zone, it's like, oh gosh, this is a big play here, big play here. Oh, let's show it all, Hell, at one point, I think they had 4 or 5 games on at one time because it was getting so crazy towards the end of the first slate of games. I'm really enjoying the way I'm watching Red Zone. Now, obviously, with Red Zone, I'm missing things that most people would catch, but I'm not upset by missing it whenever you get craziness like that. This is a biased good. The Raiders lost. As a biased Chiefs fan, that was awesome. They played like garbage the last 2 weeks. And yeah, props to the Bears. I'm so glad to see the Raiders lost. Another good. Now, some people might see this as a down, but I enjoyed it. There was over 14 or 15 hours of football yesterday. Now, do I want to do that every week? No. But as a one-off, because me personally, I like to wake up. If I'm waking up early, I personally enjoy watching the NFL Network's pregame show for the week with Rich Eisen, Michael Irvin, Kurt Warner, and Steve Mariucci. I can't remember how to say his name. I enjoy watching that, but every once in a while, just getting literally all day of football. That was a lot of fun. So, I mean, I don't want to do that every week. I don't want to do that again next week. But as a, maybe 2-3 times a year kind of thing, that was a lot of fun. The Browns-Chargers game was really fun. I mean, if you take away that penalty, that fourth quarter was nuts. There was 41 points total in the fourth quarter. There was absolutely no defense to be played in that game. And it's not a knock on either one of these teams because these teams have shown they can play amazing defense. There's just days where both offenses are clicking and you can't stop anything. And that's what this game was. I don't care that there was no defense. Sometimes you need a game like this. And so, it may not have been defense. Some people may have hated that, but these offenses were clicking. The Browns running game couldn't be stopped. The Chargers passing game couldn't be stopped. Herbert, Mayfield, Chubb, Eckler, Mike Williams, like all these players, they had amazing games. And it was fantastic to see it. Just, 41 points in the fourth quarter. Like, it can't get any better than that. Another one that I really enjoyed just watching, it was the end of the first half of the Saints-Washington game, that Jameis Winston Hail Mary. That was really smooth and kind of cool to see. The some people might call this bad, but the entertainment value at the end of the Packers Bengals game was fantastic. 5 straight missed field goals, and I know it goes back to the bad being the kickers, but man, that made for some high drama. Like, I mean, you take away their kickers, man. Both of these teams, defensively and offensively, like each of them have a star quarterback, have star receivers, both have solid tight ends, both have really good number 2s, number 3s, good running backs. Like these two teams, man. Like the Bengals may not make it to the playoffs this year, but I'm a fan of the Bengals this year, and I'm a fan of the Packers, obviously. But man, that ending of that game was fun. 5 straight missed field goals. It was beautiful. It was some game to watch. Another good was the Bills Domination. I think it just solidified their standing as the number 1 team in the AFC right now. Maybe all of the NFL. Well, maybe not all of the NFL, because I still like the Cardinals, Rams, Packers, Buccaneers on the AFC or the NFC, but the AFC is just wide open, man. I don't even know right now, because the Bills, I think, are the clear number 1. But I mean, even after that, who's even there? It's been weird. It's been a really weird I mean, I guess you could add the Chargers into that because they've been playing. Oh, and I guess we're talking about the Chargers real quick. Back to that Chargers game. Brandon Staley's balls to just go for everything. Like, this dude is just like, all right, Chargers lose everything. Screw it. We're going all out. I don't care if we lose this game. We're not going to be losing because of our conservative play calling. We're going balls to the wall. We're going all out. So Brandon Staley is slowly becoming one of my favorite head coaches. And then if you're talking about head coaches, Dan Campbell, man, like, I mean, some people are hit or miss on him crying at the press conference, but man, the way that team fights, they literally drove down the field, and, at the end of that game, and they just left too much. Like, you can't even fault them for leaving too much time on the clock. I mean, that was really fun and, cool to see the toughness of Dan Campbell. So the toughness of the Lions, and then the way they play for Dan Campbell. I mean, I'm starting to become a fan of Dan Campbell as well. All right, so now we are going to talk about the player of the week. And as you can see on the screen now, we have Justin Herbert. But I want to give some honorable mentions real quick, because there was some massive games to be had. You had Mike Williams of the Chargers having a monster game against the Browns. You had the Browns' Nick Chubb just going off like he always seems to do. And if we want to talk about other running backs, Derrick Henry, obviously he's just going to have a massive game. James Robinson for the Jags had a fantastic game, this week, even though they lost, to the Titans. Josh Allen, obviously, just the way he balled out. And then Devontae Adams had a quiet 200-yard game. No one's talking about it because of the end of that craziness. But yeah, those are some honorable mentions. But if you're going to go with the actual player of the week, it's got to be Justin Herbert. And I know there's an entire list, but just the way that Justin Herbert plays, the way that his coach puts him in situations to be very good, like to help his team win. Like, that's what you have to ask as a player, as your coach, to put you in situations to win. So going for it on those 4th downs, you may not have converted the 2-point conversions, but they still fighting every single play, getting those touchdowns, making big plays, throwing for almost 400 yards, throwing 4 touchdowns, having no turnovers, and then, you not turning the ball over. Like, Justin Herbert has been fantastic this year. And I know Kyler Murray, as of right now, is probably the MVP favorite, maybe Josh Allen as well. But at some point, we got to start talking about Justin Herbert. Like, this dude is going to be hell for the Chiefs to come up. And I know we're not supposed to talk about division rivals, but at the same time, it's fun to poke fun at the Raiders because they have some of the most annoying fans, on the planet. I mean, every fan base is annoying. Cowboys, Raiders. But obviously, when you want to, you don't hate the players. I think that Derek Carr is good. I think they're, I think the Raiders are a decent team, but screw the Raiders. And then the Chargers. You're not supposed to root for the Broncos, Chargers. I'm not rooting for the Broncos. I think the Broncos are complete frauds. We'll get into that in another video. But then you look at the Chargers. They are a tough team. They're not going to be no pushover this year. They're going to be a tough team, and they're not going to lose in devastating fashions like they have in the past, or they're not going to choke leads. So Herbert and that offense is going to be hard to beat. And so just the way they played, I have Justin Herbert as the Week 5 player of the week.